One of my favorite things about fishing this time of year is those bass are starting to move. They're heading back up shallow from out deep, and they're using those traditional migration routes to do it. We're going to talk about where those bass are setting up and the simple lures I'm using to catch tons of bass every time I head out to the big lake. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And if you've been around this channel for any length of time, then you already know the fall is my favorite time of year to go bass fishing. Not only do we have cooler temperatures, which makes those long days out on the water much more bearable, we have a lot less fishing pressure, which gives those beat up bass a much needed break. Also, those bass are starting to move. They're coming back up from out deep using those old traditional migration routes, such as submerged creek arms or humps and saddles right along the bank. And we can take advantage of that. So today we're going to talk about the signs that I'm using to tell me when this is starting and the lures that are having the best effect for me. But before we get started, if you like what I'm doing here, then click that subscribe button down below. We'd love to have you as a member of this community. And while you're down there, give this video a like. I would really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, head on over to patreon.com and check out my members page. It's a place where I post videos that I don't post here, and I do interactive polls where you guys choose how I refurbish my boat, whether it's the steering wheel, whether it's the seat cushions, whether it's forward-facing sonar. What my members say is what I do. So check it out. The link is in the description. So, is it a little bit early to be talking about the fall feed? Well, not necessarily, because it's September already, and the fall feed will be here before you know it. And right now, those bass are getting ready to start their migration. Now, the way that I tell is because that's when that crankbait bite really starts to pick up. That's when those bass are getting more active. They're coming from out deep, and I can find them along those traditional migration routes. I'm finding more and more every single time that I go. And a great way to find those migration routes, if you're not familiar with them on your fishery or a fishery that you've never been to before, is to check out Google Earth. You've heard me beat that dead horse into the ground, but I cannot stress it enough. Download Google Earth. It's free. Use it. It is one of the absolute best angling tools that any fisherman can have. Check out the lake you want to fish. You can look at the current pictures, or you can roll back the clock and see when that water was down, which will reveal a lot, especially near the bank. Plus, you can also find out yearly cycles. If it's a lake you're not familiar with, you can see, oh, every single year at this time, they put that lake on drawdown, which is a good bit of information to have. So I'm seeing bass that are getting more active, and I noticed that crankbait bite is starting to pick up. But that's not the only bite. I can fish along the bank because on the big lake, the traditional routes are really right along the bank. We've got a main creek channel that flows through the middle of the lake. Back when the lake was just a creek before they dammed it up and flooded the whole thing, that channel is still there. And the bass, like anybody else, they like the path of least resistance. So they follow along that creek channel, and when the creek channel diverges, they go all the way up next to the bank and follow the humps and saddles that are there. So I can use just a couple of different presentations and catch a lot of bass. If the area is deep, if I'm a little bit more offshore, if I'm over one of those submerged creek channels, well, that's when I'm using something like this. And this is my classical leader. And yes, it looks even worse than the last time you saw it. I'm debating on replacing it, but this thing catches so many fish. I don't know. I don't want to jinx it, so I'm just basically letting it ride until it falls apart. And just the last time I was out on the big lake, I was fishing maybe 100 feet offshore, right along where one of those submerged creek arms goes through, where the bass go up near the shore. And I'm telling you what, I was working that area, and it didn't take too long at all before I was hooking into fish.
That was a bill catch. That wasn't even a hook catch. It was the bill that caught it. Good deal. Hand slip. Just the biggest piece of hydrilla I've caught all day. No, it's actually a fish. Holy cow. All right, and not bad. Not a bad fish either. I thought that was a hydrilla, because that's all I've been hooking into all day. Got you right in the hoof of the mouth, right in the roof of the mouth. Beautiful, beautiful bass. Pushing a pound and a half. Not quite a pound and a half, between a pound and a quarter and a pound and a half. Nice bass on the classical leader. On that crankbait, windy day, a lot of wind-driven current. I'm working the bait fast, and there's the result. All right. That's going to be good on that back camera. Beautiful. Thank you, buddy. Sure do appreciate it.
Okay, so I'm using a crankbait in those areas. How do I know that area is an area I want to fish a crankbait? Well, I can use something like a square bill. I can use something that gets down a little bit deeper. And the way that I'm thinking about it is, what does that bank do? Does the bank come down pretty steep and have that traditional bend? Then I'm going to be using a crankbait. If I've got some deeper water near the bank, then I'm going to be using something like that classical leader, or something like this Ugly Googan crankbait. And this thing right now, I'm on a big Ugly Googan crankbait kick. I've caught a lot of fish with this thing, so this is going to stay tight on quite a bit. And that's what I'm looking for. And I can do it in either direction, because I am spending my entire day no farther than 100 feet from the bank, because I know the bass are all funneling in that direction. And this is the time of year where I can work an area with a crankbait. I can work it with that classical leader. I can work it with this square bill or other types of crankbaits, and catch the fish in that area, move on, and come back in a couple hours and rework that area. And that's what I was doing last time I was out at the big lake. When I had this tied on, I'm telling you what, I was still catching some really nice fish.
There we go. That's good. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one right there, kids. Come on, you. Boat hop him. Boat, as my buddy Hank says. That's another nice fish right there. Another really nice fish. All right. I got to get my hemostats because my pliers are out of commission. Rough day, rough day. On that super ugly Googan crankbait, another pound and a half, between a pound and a quarter and a pound and a half. Nice fish, good fish on that crankbait. You know, you love to see it. We've been catching them all different ways today. That's a good thing about September bass fishing, is it just really opens everything up. Appreciate it, buddy. And there he goes. All right, let's do that again.
So if you're a bank angler, you don't have to sweat it. If you've got some deeper 45-degree banks or even more steep, I'm telling you, you can use a pretty good crankbait in those areas. You might want to go a little bit smaller. You might want to go with one that doesn't dive quite as deep, but near the bank like that, it's awesome. You can catch a lot of fish. And while I'm burning it, sometimes I'm finding that actually going a little bit slower, backing off of that retrieve and pausing it and then cranking it some more and then pausing it, that's when those bass are absolutely killing it. And they're not playing around. They are smashing those crankbaits. Now, another thing that I'm doing is I'm spot working targets. If I'm in a little bit more shallow water, all the way up to working shallow flats. And I know that there's a migration route that goes right up underneath some flooded brush or some laydowns or whatever. That's when I'm picking out a popper, right? Something I can spot work those areas. I know that the bass are in that area, so I don't have to worry about covering water. I know that the fish are in that area, and more will be as we get deeper into September and then October. I can work this, and last time I was working this on that BFS reel, which we'll get into in just a second, but I threw this out there, and I'm telling you what, right along that edge where those laurel bushes were, I caught this nice guy.
Got him. Got to readjust my hand because I cramped. Oh, my hand is cramping. Not a bad bass. He's jumping and flopping. Oh, he's pulling drag, and my right hand is cramping. Oh, what a good fish. This is definitely a good fish. Let's see if I can't walk him over here. Come on, buddy, stay down. There we go. Ooh. There we go. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous fish. I knew the popper was going to work through here. I knew you was in here, buddy. I knew you was in here. All right. Beautiful fish. Pound and 3/4, between pound and 3/4 and 2 pounds. Absolute chunker, absolute tank. You've been feeding really good today. We really do appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing up today. Appreciate that. Boom, and there he goes. Woo, all right, let's go get another one.
So as you can see, the fish catches were starting to add up. Fishing that same pattern I have been for years. And remember, we don't want to fish lures. We don't want to fish spots. We want to fish patterns. I was using the current, like I talked about in a recent video. The wind was blowing, and it was pushing me along the edge and then pushing me south, actually along that bank at a pretty good clip. I didn't even hardly have to use my trolling motor except to maybe adjust the direction of the boat. But for the most part, I'm moving at about 1.5, 2 miles an hour just by letting the boat drift. And that was perfect. I could cover water and work along that bank and hit those spots with that popper. Unfortunately, well, and I have a sneaking suspicion that my old buddy Ted Lincoln is probably going to have a heart attack or heartbreak over this. I broke that BFS rod. The brand new KastKing setup that the people at KastKing sent to me, I broke that rod. And it was kind of a stupid thing that I did. I got it caught on the starboard front cleat of the boat, and I was just swinging the rod around. I mean, I didn't even think that I had that much pressure, but it caught that cleat and it just snapped it right in half. And that's like the 4th rod I've done that with on that cleat. So I'm taking that cleat off of there. I think it's about time that I learned my lesson. So I will be replacing that rod. So I do like the BFS. It was fun to catch that fish on BFS. That was a real wild ride. But I wasn't done working poppers yet. Again, following those same migration patterns, letting the current carry me along. Well, I switched to this, my normal topwater setup, my normal heavier slop setup, and I've got the old Rico popper tied on. And I worked it in the same way, right up under those flooded laurel bushes, right in those spot areas that I knew the bass would be. And lo and behold, I was not disappointed with another nice fish catch.
Got him. Boy, he hit it. Boy, that's not a bad fish either. Come here, Junior. Come here, Junior. Where do you think you're going? Whoa. Get out of that. Get out of that hydrilla. Come up over here, you. But Rico popper strikes again. Nice fish, nice fish. I knew if I knocked that dinner bell. Yay, pound and 3/4, not quite 2 pounds. Long fish. Beautiful, gorgeous fish. It's been a good day. We've caught a lot of fish. We've been beating the bank. It's what we've been doing. We have just been rolling up down the bank and just working everything right up against it. He come out and he smashed that thing. Had me kind of confused because as soon as I twitched it, he smashed it. And I was waiting for my popper to come back up, and it didn't. I saw it swimming away, and I was like, oh, I got a fish on there. Beautiful, dude. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Nice fish. Thank you so much. And there he goes. All right. All right. What a good day.
And so it played out all day. If I had some steeper bank that was going out into the water, I was using crankbaits. I could parallel the bank and work that square bill down there, and I could get bites that way. Or I could fish over those submerged creek channels with something like that classical leader, or even the ugly stomachache crankbait from Bandit, that big, loud pink one, which the bass love that thing. So as I'm drifting along, I come up over a hump to a shallow flat or to a main lake point, and I'm drifting and going from 15 feet of water up to about 3 or 4 feet of water. I pull out that popper and I start working along the flooded brush that's right there. I can spot work those targets and have a lot of success. And this is only going to continue as we move further along in September. I'm telling you, look for the signs, because they will be happening sooner rather than later. And they usually start happening earlier on northern fisheries than they do southern fisheries, because bass don't have nearly as much time before you get that case of hard water. So they've got to kind of get up to where they need to be and start feeding up for the fall. If you find that you have that, trust me, work deeper water with a crankbait and then work those spots with something like a popper or maybe a frog or whatever, but spot work those places. A wacky rig might also work. You could probably throw something like a Rebel Minnow in there, and I'm telling you, you will get those bites up underneath that flooded brush. And it's just going to get more and more as we progress into the fall. So there you have it. The perfect 1-2 punch for September bass fishing. The bass are going to get more active as they begin to move from out deep up into their traditional fall homes. You can take advantage of this with just a couple of easy techniques. I'm telling you what, try a few things out, find what works for you, and I'm telling you, you are going to catch a lot of nice fish. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.